Hello, everyone. How are you? Hey, good to see you.
Eh, Everything sound good on your end?
On my end, yes. You guys?
Yep. Okay, perfect. So, and everything's up already on YouTube and everything. So just so letting you know, Wade.
We're finally, it feels like we're making good progress on this plan.
I agree.
Martin said he's going to join Zoom. You got good stuff coming your way.
Hello, gang.
Hey, Martin.
Hey, Martin.
Hey, Wade, how's it going?
Good.
Thanks for doing this for me. I have a bit of a cold.
Sounds like it.
You know,
We're all here and we're all ready, and it's 7, so I'll call to order the August 23rd, 2023 meeting of the Poolsville Planning Commission. On the agenda tonight, we have citizens' comments. Didn't see anybody, so there's no comments.
Nope.
Any announcements from staff?
Yeah. So on August 15th, the Board of Zoning Appeals approved the variance for the height variance for the townhouses. And then they are planning on coming back before the Planning Commission at the September meeting. And so they're supposed to get us this stuff by next week, so we haven't reviewed it yet. Also, the Bricken property also plans to submit updates to their preliminary plan and hope to be also on that September meeting, just so as a preview of that. But we've also not received that yet, so we gave the August 30th deadline for both, just so that you're aware. I think those were the main announcements. Was there anything else, Wade?
Nope, that's it.
All right.
Awesome. Martin, anything from the commissioners?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep.
The only thing I have is we received a little bit of feedback about the townhouse project, and I assume that either Wade or Niles will forward that on to you before the next meeting so that you can read it. Yeah, that's all I have.
All right. Has everybody had a chance to read the minutes from the July 14th meeting? Any comments, questions, or edits?
I'll make a motion. We approve the meetings from the July 14th.
Seconded.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We have no new business today, and we can't go straight to adjournment, so we'll go to old business first. The comprehensive plan with Wallace Montgomery. They have an update. Good evening, Michael.
Hello, everybody. Good to be back again. I know everybody's anxious to move forward and get this ready into a final format, so as our lead. I appreciate,
Sorry about that. Appreciate all the efforts that we've been coordinating with Niles and Wade to get their input and incorporate the comments, et cetera. We'll be talking through a number of the elements tonight. I think, and then Wade, I appreciate you sending out that, you emailed us yesterday about kind of coming back the next meeting for the final set. And so, and I've mentioned previously that we've been working to reformat some of the chapters, and we're just kind of on hold a little bit till we get through the comments to make sure we've incorporated them. And then there's a number of things we've noted through the way that we'll be updating some of the maps, some of the charts, some of the tables, and there's a couple of placeholders that we still have in there for data and information that we'll be working on with you and with the staff to fill that. And so I think we're pretty well on track once we get through the conversations with you to finalize the chapters, and then again another round of coordination on all the comments with Niles primarily, but also with Wade. So I don't know how you all wanted to proceed with the chapters and the comments tonight.
So just so that everybody on Zoom knows as well, I just put together, and for the packets for the people here, I just sort of put them in regards of the new chapters first, and then the stuff that we've looked at before. So I had just by going through numerical order, I put chapter 4 and then chapter 8, and going from there. If that's how the commission wants to go, feel free, we can go around, but I just did it that way, just because it made sense to me. All right.
And I just, for everybody's information, I know we talked last time about calling it the comprehensive plan update, so when we update that we will just refer to Envision Poolsville as the initial kind of public involvement phase that we did. So we'll change that, and we'll update the headers and footers of everything, and then also kind of renumber the chapters now that we have the sustainability chapter we're adding after the sensitive areas, and then the kind of chapter 1 and chapter 2 that we'll be going through in a little bit. So adding basically two more chapters to it, and we'll just renumber and update everything as we finalize those. So I think the land use we've had out here for a little bit.
So Wade and I went through this a little bit, but Wade did a lot of the edits on this one. Do you have anything you want to say first, or do we want to just get into their feedback?
Oh, let's get into feedback. Let's get it.
All right.
Okay.
I'm not going to have a ton of feedback tonight because I didn't finish all the reading, but I did read this chapter. Can we look at page 2? Under the residential land use, single family attached, single family detached, multifamily, there's the definitions there, but then on the chart on page 4, it uses different terminology like low density detached residential, medium density attached residential, and high density multifamily residential. Is there any way that we
Yeah.
could at least put those in parentheses or make them match?
No, and stuff, that's a great comment, because even on the zoning code that is on, uses the old language that doesn't match up with the narrative that's in the zoning code or in what I've changed as far as the, the residential, what it really is. So the charts need to be updated. They are incorrect this time.
Okay, thank you. Then on page 3, this is kind of a formatting thing, but under institutional/community facility land use, it talks about the definition for institutional land use and community facilities. I just wondered if we should bullet those like they are on page 2 under commercial land use or the residential land use, how the different definitions are bulleted out instead of in paragraph form. Doesn't particularly matter, but just for...
I think one of the issues there is we have kind of multiple categories under the residential and commercial, whereas we just have a little description under the other categories. So I think that's why there weren't bullets in there previously.
All right.
Yeah, either one is fine. But as I was reading through, you get there and it's just kind of like, oh, hold on, this is 2 different uses. And they're not bulleted,
Oh, I
whereas some of
I
the
see.
others are
There's
bulleted.
a couple that could be bulleted, I see. what
It
you're
it doesn't necessarily matter, it's just something that kind of stuck out to me. And then I've got two more. So on page 6, in the zoning districts, under residential, the first bullet point is residential multifamily, and it says residential properties containing multiple family dwelling units. But if you go back to page 2, what we define as multiple dwelling units or multiple family is apartments or condominiums or townhouses. So I believe that we're talking about for residential multifamily is townhomes.
Yes, that's what we had in the zone is primarily townhouses. I guess there could be others, but,
Yeah, the
Yes.
apartments don't really have their own zone.
right.
Okay, even if we could just put, such as townhomes or apartments, just so that it's clear, because then when you go down to the zoning map and you look at, there are 33 acres of multifamily homes, and townhomes isn't listed as that, and earlier it's defined as apartments and condos, that's a little deceiving as to what
Yeah.
the town looks like.
Yeah, and apartments are allowable, but not zoned as far as commercial goes.
Right.
So that can be confusing also, but
Yeah, so I don't know if there's a way to just make that a little less confusing.
okay.
But my last thing is kind of comparing table 4.1 on page 4 and table 4.5 on page 7. And it looks like we're losing, acres from agricultural, and the number of parcels goes down to 10, and it's reallocated in low-density detached residential, kind of that area. But the number of parcels somehow, despite the fact that the acreage is changing, is going down by almost 70 acres from agricultural. There should be way more parcels, I feel like, than the 2,203. Am I reading it wrong?
Is that because it's not subdivided yet, but it's proposed to be,
I think there's a couple issues there. We talked about right-of-ways and things also in some of these areas where there could be flood zones, and we need more notes to explain that.
Okay, yeah, because that was just something, to me, the number of parcels should have gone up because you're going from an agricultural to like half-acre lots. So there should be, potentially, so there should be a lot more parcels.
Right, and we could look at
Well,
that.
agricultural is 25 acres, but per household.
Right, but you're taking 4 from agricultural and you're allocating them into low-density detached, right?
Right, but I think the point we made earlier, and we can check on this, is accurate, that because it hasn't been subdivided, it's just kind of moving into a different category of future land use.
So, just so that I understand just what you're saying, so you're saying that you think the number should be greater than 30? Because the parcels of low density goes from 1,632 to 1,662.
I don't know, but
Okay.
it feels weird that we lose only 4 agricultural, we're losing 70 acres of agricultural, right? 4 parcels from agricultural, but then somehow the number of units stays exactly the same. The number of parcels stays at 2,203 in both.
Right. Oh, the
That
total,
should-
that's what it is.
Well,
yeah.
maybe it's the total. I didn't add them all because,
I
I
see
just
what you're
started
saying.
looking at this, but there's something that's off. There clearly
Yep.
should be way more parcels in the
Yep.
future land use than there are in the current.
Total.
Yeah, and we're going to look at
Yeah.
this also in doing the final update, because part of it's just the way it's classified in the GIS. We didn't have all the parcel boundaries in there, and so it was, I think, a bit of an approximation when we started at the initial
The
calculation.
vacant goes, you're losing 40 units, 42 units of vacant, if that's right.
Yeah.
Do we really have 0 vacant parcels?
Yeah.
Okay. So I think that might offset.
Oh, that might offset.
Yeah, but we can look at the math just to make sure.
Yeah, we were looking at that when we were preparing this because of some of the questions from the GIS, just because that layer isn't fully built out. And so we've had to do some kind of cross-checking on the analysis. So I was working on that with Nick Walls when we sent this over.
Is formatting. Yeah, okay.
59 acres of vacant space in the existing land use zones in that area. Is it? I mean, the map works out. I don't know how they have 2203 in both. I totally understand what you're saying.
But even when I look at map 4-1, now thinking about those vacant properties, and I look at the color of the vacant properties on there, and then that it's
But-
59.62 acres of vacant land, that doesn't look like 59.62 acres, but maybe it is.
All these charts are like, so we have a task sheet of where we were as far as the narratives go in each one of these chapters. And updating these tables and getting them all into sync is a thing that echoes with every one of these chapters that we're going through.
Right.
Okay. That's all my things.
Okay.
Couple. On page one, those first two paragraphs really need to move somewhere else, I think. Anywhere below paragraph 3 and 4. 1 and 2 just need to go below 3 and 4. It really is awkward when you jump into those, whereas every other chapter starts out with, like, paragraph 2 and 3 and 4 does. See what I mean?
Yeah, so the purpose paragraph should be the first one.
Yeah. Those other two, whether they go just after it or in another subsection,
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I think they used to be in a different subsection, if I remember from the previous drafts. So the more major thing I have, if you guys can pull out the guiding principles sheet and jump down, I know we haven't looked at this yet, but if you jump down to guiding principle number, in each, section 3, guiding principle number 2, housing that reflects a full range of choices. I worked on that, it's amazing how long it takes to go with 2 sentences. I worked on that and plagiarized part of that from someplace else, but I think I was trying to capture the essence of our conversation at that last work session. And I'd like, if we decide we like that guiding principle there, I'd like to try to figure out how to get that wording or something very similar as one of the first goals, or very clearly in the goals of the land use chapter.
Are you referencing the one that says housing that reflects a
Yes.
full range?
Mhm.
Okay, or even both. I mean, both of them could probably be addressed as,
Both of which?
for your guiding principles, number 3,
Mhm.
growth through redevelopment, because that would also have a land use component to it. And we can look at what's in here now. And the housing probably we'd want to look at the housing goals as well and make sure that that's already represented there.
Yes.
I think it is, we just need to change the wording.
For
because it's similar.
consistency, if we
Yes.
decide we like that, well, if we agree on
Yeah.
what the approach for that housing that reflects a full range of choices concept, then yeah, I'd like to see that mirrored in both the land use and the housing.
Yeah, sure.
And you're right, I hadn't thought about the growth through redevelopment topic. That,
I mean, we could look at if everybody's okay with this version, or if it ends up being changed slightly, we could look at the language and just make sure that it's
Okay.
included in
yeah,
the
so
chapter.
we can come back around to,
Yeah.
after we look at that later, but they tie together. And you're right, the housing
Yeah.
section too, when we
Right.
go back and read that.
Yeah.
It says really minor, but I agree with you, the purpose being reversed, everything, paragraphs 1 and 2 need to be 3 and 4.
Okay,
At a minimum, yeah, if they want to shuffle them some other way, but yeah, that's what I was saying, just kind of.
Just the-
Also, it was just, it felt we were jumping in, but too, it's inconsistent with almost every other chapter.
Surprised you said you wanted to add a goal to reject the Chuck, we're already at 5. I thought that was a little high for you.
Yeah, where do we get to the one that has 8?
But I don't know where,
Or it could, look, in some ways, it's, depending on how you want to wordsmith it, it could subsume, well, 1 and 2, the current 1 and 2 that are in the land use chapter. We don't have to necessarily add 2 additional ones, but maybe just one thought is tweak those top level 1 and 2 that's currently in the land use.
Yeah, and
There's a couple different ways to go about it.
right, and one example I just would say is that under number 2, bullet point 3 is evaluate increasing density as a tool
Yeah.
to encourage redevelopment. Just rewrite that to reflect growth through redevelopment. That's an example.
Yeah.
So we wouldn't necessarily be changing it, but sort of redefining it.
Expand it a little bit.
Yeah, I think that discussion point is throughout the plan in different points, because we have talked about it a number of times.
Yeah, that was the reason we were trying to make it a guiding principle, so it gets sprinkled consistently at as many places as possible.
And it's relevant across the chapters as well, even when we talked about the water resources, for example, and the municipal growth element. So we can, I think that's the key, is once we've gone through all the comments, just to make sure that it's consistent.
Exactly.
Across the chapters, even the ones we previously talked about. Because if there's new language here and it's slightly different, then we'll just make sure it's consistent with.
That was all I had on land use.
I'm good. There's nothing that hasn't been touched on. I have a few minor grammatical
Yeah.
things to send to you.
Yep. Take care of that.
anything from you, Martin?
No, I don't have anything. I had allotted some time to look over it, and I've been kind of sick, so to be honest with you, I haven't looked over it. But I will catch it for when we do the final review.
Fair enough.
Okay. So for Chapter 8, the Economic Development, I'll point out that we didn't really have one of these chapters in the prior plan. There was the business element that was talked about. So I pulled some of the language from there. And so a lot of this is, again, as we've done with other chapters, we've added data that we typically would add in a chapter like this. And then in talking with Niles and Wade, they referenced the 2012 study. So I did go back there and added some language from it, and then also added a section about White's Ferry. So that's the context for what we have here today. And ultimately, if you decide you want to pull some of the data, like we did with the housing chapter, we can do that, but it's typically information that we would have in a chapter like this. But also acknowledging that Poolesville is a very small town, and so consequently, the economic development piece, there's not as much data as there would be in larger jurisdictions. And so a lot of it does relate to employment, areas of employment and commuting, especially for Poolesville residents in terms of where they go for their jobs. So that's the idea there. And tried to pull some of the ideas that we've talked about previously in terms of, against the redevelopment section, and acknowledging the progress that's been made since the last plan. We've talked about that at prior meetings in terms of what's been going on in kind of downtown Poolesville. And a little bit of the, like Chuck was just talking about, the idea that there's going to be more opportunities for redevelopment. And again, tying that to the potential to support, businesses and services that serve the local community, especially if the trend, which we can look at more, or you'll probably be looking at more in terms of folks working from home and then making sure that they have options within the town, because that would be the opportunities as well as for visitors if the Berry reopens and so on, and the kind of the connectivity improves and you get more visitation. People who are stopping in Poolesville when they're taking advantage of the other recreational opportunities in the area. So that's kind of the background for what was presented here.
Are we actually implementing the streetscape now?
So we are in the process with the state of designing it to be built. So it's going to take a little bit of time for us to go through that process. We're looking at 2025 to be the actual construction.
So we're not really implementing it now?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you,
It's technical, but.
Right.
It says continue to implement. I just didn't realize we were actually doing an implementation yet.
I
so.
mean, I guess it depends on whether you consider designing it, implementing it, or not, but,
There's-
So we have been piecemealing it.
Yes,
To that degree,
yeah.
as far as the crosswalks and some of the signage we've done.
Yeah.
Signage we've done.
Fair
the
enough.
Flashing crosswalks. So we have been kind of piecemeal implementing.
yeah.
Plus, don't forget, the number one reason why we went through years of hassle to take over Fisher Ave was for the streetscape. So that's part of implementation as well.
Yeah.
I just was looking at that first goal and objective and trying to get the redundancy of the word continue out, but it's really, it's fair, it's accurate.
Now, I did pull some of the ideas from the 2012 report, and I don't know if you all wanted to talk about those at all, or highlight other ones, like the food hub. Yeah, that was in the report in 2012.
Yeah, I personally think that ship has sailed and that's gone and
Right.
could be dropped. And I know that was a large aspirational thing years back, and with multiple attempts, it failed and has kind of been replaced by Dollar General.
Mhm.
If that's where that came from. Because
Yeah.
That really,
Trying to look at those ideas, if they were still active or something you wanted to pick up again.
Chuck, you put a couple things in here. I see, number 8 on some of the goals and objectives, and you're exactly right as far as, don't, use an active voice.
Yeah,
Develop
I'm
a
sorry.
marketing plan, not just consider it.
yeah, do it. Sorry, number 8.
No, that's a great point.
Don't consider
Great
it,
point.
do it.
Okay.
Yeah.
When I was looking at that one, Chuck, I was thinking a little bit about, again, the number of goals we have, right? We've been trying to keep around 5.
Yeah.
I feel like developing a marketing plan really fits under goal number 1, preserve and enhance the small town character of the town center as the hub for activity for Poolsville and the surrounding region.
I
I
like that.
felt like that objective really goes under number 1 to me.
I've been sitting here trying to figure out where to move number 5 too.
Hold on, I've got other ones.
Okay.
This is the only part I got to here. All right, so I was thinking 5 should move under number 6. So maintain and enhance the town's regional support for the needs of the surrounding farms, rural development. And then 6 is re-examine the recommendations from the economic development plan. Well, maybe not.
Well, yeah.
I mean, 6 I tried to pull more specifically from the report. I think 5 probably stands out alone, but again, you can decide whether you want to keep it or.
Or it could go under 1 too.
Mhm.
It feels like it's hanging out there, and it's too many, just, I'd like, if can't think of anything else, I'd move it under 1. I can see it under 1 or 6, to be honest.
Yeah. The other one I was thinking was that number 7 right now, supporting the efforts to reopen White's Ferry. I feel like that goes under number 2. It should be like one of the first bullet points under number 2 because it's all about ensuring residents have access to local job opportunity.
Yeah.
The only comment I'd have about that would be, I mean, it depends on how important you consider White Ferry to be. I mean, by having it as a separate thing, you are kind of highlighting it as an issue.
Yeah, that's the way as Niles and I did it too, the same thing. We wanted
Yeah.
to we kept it separate on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a tricky one though, because although we can continue to leverage, that we don't have full control over that one. So that is its own goal, although it's really important to everybody. I don't know. That one's tricky to me.
So when we get to the guiding principles thing, under economic development, I have White's Ferry called out very, very specifically as well, thinking that I went back and forth too about should it be, and matter of fact, should it be high on the list of the goals in this chapter.
So the one thing to keep in mind is, especially if you're dealing with people outside the town, whether it's county or state folks, the more that you have it emphasized as a point,
Yeah.
as a priority, then you can point, like you were saying, like, we keep going back to the comp plan. Well, here, it's in our comp plan, it's important enough that
Yeah.
we have it in there.
Let's
So-
not bury the lead.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, that may be something that gets resolved in the next couple of years and then becomes less of an issue, or maybe it lingers, you just don't know. But if it's in the plan, you can say, hey, it's in our plan. Here it is, it's a couple places, and then, what impact that has is always debatable, but at least you can say, it's a priority.
Yeah, I definitely hear that. I think that one's tricky though, because it's still private land, and I know that we're trying to get.
Well, it's also land that's not even in town, but
Right.
but it's a primary focus and has been of the one major
Fair
thing,
access.
fair access for a while, with more heat being placed on it, I think, in the near future again.
And there's such a wide variety of options on the table
Yeah.
that aren't really open to public consumption at this time.
Right.
Yeah.
But we don't have to settle that now, obviously.
Can I go back to the overview for a second? Sorry. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The fifth paragraph down. The second sentence is, moreover, there's anecdotal evidence that many residents have been working from home. Is this like county-wide evidence? Where is this evidence? Or is this just like, across the country, there's evidence that more people, because I think we're kind of on the trend that people are starting to go back to work a little
Right.
bit more. So I don't know how
I would say the only piece of evidence that I would say that could lead to the potential that more people are around town is when we've done studies of Fisher Avenue. One of the things that we've seen is a increase in the number of trips in town, like in front, literally in this stretch here, so going to the businesses and such. And that might reflect, even with the ferry being closed, that there are more people in town during the day than previously. So that's the only piece of evidence that could lead to that conclusion that I could think of. But
Yeah, I mean, that's a little bit of the challenge of working on this for a period of time, because I think we brought it up earlier, and things have changed since we've started the plan, but it's hard to measure some of them. That's why I talked about it as being anecdotal. And it could be something that could change. I mean, the new normal we talk about, whatever that means.
I wonder if it could be something that we date it, like we've been talking about in other things. Moreover, there's anecdotal evidence from increased traffic in town from a study done blank at this time period, that more residents may be working from home since the COVID-19 pandemic or something. I don't know.
I mean, don't we know for sure? More people are working from home, it's a fact. And not everybody's going back to work yet, and some people never are. And those that are probably aren't gonna go back 5 days a week.
Now, without a study, we don't have that to say, hey, this many more people are working.
Hence
from
why it's
home.
anecdotal.
Right, that's why it's anecdotal. We have a study about the, so we can say anecdotal, evidence about, people working from home and a traffic study that supports more, that anecdotal evidence. Right, substantiates it because there's more day trips. I think that's fair. It's just,
Right.
both those pieces of information make it a much more solid thought.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty, and it could be certainly virtual work a couple days a week. And
Yeah.
not, maybe
I think that's probably.
months ago it was more days, and now it's fewer days.
Right.
But even in our office, not everybody's back, so, and they're not planning to be back. So anecdotally, I can share that.
I've gone into the office 2 days in the last 3 years.
I'm back full-time, obviously, as a teacher. And I will tell you that the amount of traffic on the road commuting to work and from work has risen the number of traffic. For me, driving to and from work has risen exponentially. So I just wonder how, I was just curious.
Well, and the other part too, and we can look at the language there. I mean, I think the point is that Poolsville has been primarily kind of a bedroom community, and so people are commuting elsewhere, and we have data about that here. But anecdotally, we've heard, I mean, it's a very attractive place to be too. And so not only do people have the option from working from home, but they may want to work from home versus having to commute long distances to Northern Virginia or somewhere because they like living in Poolsville, but their job may be elsewhere. So, but again, also it's an issue where since Poolsville is not a very large place, it's not like we're going to see big numbers, So, but I think at least acknowledging it, because it could, and if it continues, and thinking about some strategies for enhancing downtown and the services here. I mean, making things available, like we talked at one of the meetings about having maybe some workspace, shared workspaces, making that available so the people who may be working from home don't have to be just at home. They maybe have opportunities within the town. But again, that's up to you in terms of what you want to highlight or emphasize.
I think, when was the traffic study done?
So it was done a couple of months ago,
Okay.
and then we're still waiting on the county to give us some more data, and collecting our own. So it's sort of ongoing, but part of the data we already have, so.
I thought I remember seeing the
Yeah.
up there for a while.
Mhm.
Just, and it was this traffic study done at the same time of year previously?
So I think the last time we did it on Fisher it was a while ago. It was, so I'll pull what the, it was like, maybe like 5-6 years ago, something like that. Yeah.
Same
But,
time of year, I would hope, right? Because if you did it just a month or two ago, that would be during the summer without school traffic.
Yeah.
Right, it would have been, the study was done for the crosswalks,
yeah,
only with the crosswalks in, so.
I'm just curious, I think it could be very useful to reference a study that was conducted and the month that it was conducted.
Yeah.
That shows more day trips,
yeah.
In town, supporting anecdotal evidence
Mhm.
of more people working from home.
Yeah.
But I think if you start with I was gonna type something up, but I know you guys can write, but if you start with quoting a study, then I think that just makes a stronger statement.
Because there may be some future studies as well, and the data could be compared, to see what the trends are.
Yep.
I suspect when you go into the breakout for the streetscape planning, you'll probably see additional studies done. And also possible development in the center of town, you're going to see additional traffic. So you can compare what you're seeing.
Of course, we want to put in there just, that increase in traffic despite the closure of White's Ferry.
We've had a discussion about that as far as is the GPS now funneling some stuff from around Point of Rocks and down through town.
And that also could be a factor, but that's again going to add anecdotal, we don't know, so.
Just remind me of something.
I mean, it's not the same regardless, because we also have more houses that have been built in that time. You know what I mean? Like in town. So they're not apples to apples, but it is definitely stronger evidence. I just was unsure if we were talking about anecdotally, like across the country. Are we talking about, you know what I mean? Like what anecdotal source are we kind of using? It's just a very general statement.
Yeah, I don't think we were making a specific reference, but I know we've talked about it previously, so it's just I guess an observation.
But we can take what we have and see if we can fit it that way, I think.
Because, I mean, if.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any real data that's gonna match up to it. I mean, when the guys are in the parks and mowing the parks and stuff, there's a lot more people in the parks now. Maybe that is just the influx of the new Westerly Grove folks and different people moving into town also, not just, people working from home, so. Who knows why?
Right, but I mean, as you all talk, even after the plan, about what's happening in town and focusing on these economic development efforts, you'll probably be looking at that a little bit more. So we just want to frame it, at least in the plan, for our current understanding, and if we have data, we can reference it. But then, again, this can be kind of a guide for you moving forward. If you do get more data and suddenly you see trends there, and you say, well, we want to take advantage of that, we're trying to identify what those opportunities are.
Wade, page 13.
Yeah,
You have it, somebody had it highlighted and I drew a big box around it. Budget each year for incremental relocation of overhead utilities lines to.
yes, I highlighted that too, Chuck.
We're not doing that, right? And we've never
Right.
seriously contemplated it?
No, I think it's out the window, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean,
And we're talking about the incremental relocation of the overheads, yeah.
I mean, literally every time it's come up for the last 20 years, it's been thrown away within seconds because the cost is insane. And we are not budgeting for it, and we never have, and I don't think we ever will. We have much better things to do with those dollars, so. I didn't realize, was that actually in with these other bullets in that document it came from? Does anybody know?
I think so.
I think, that might have been the 2011 one,
Yeah,
It was.
a bullet that was picked up.
really? I really would like to see that go away. It's not something the commissioners are ever going to do. We don't have the money for it. And the utility company just laughs at us when we bring it up. Almost literally.
Yeah, I mean, that's a very common discussion item in communities, especially in regards to some of the resiliency, right? Where we have storms and it gets affected, and they're like, well, that would be an option, but we don't have the money.
Well,
It's kind of a goal, but,
it's really not an option.
right.
It's fantasy.
No, it's
The
good.
best
talk
if you
about
want
these
to
out
do
here.
to keep it on, the best you can do if you want to keep it on the radar is continue looking for opportunities to, relocate the lines underground. I mean, I don't know what else you would do. Because you're right, we're not going to budget for it and do it. It's a couple $1 million a mile. That was years ago, so it's probably more than that now. So what's the pleasure of the board?
I'd like to see that one removed, just because it's just not something that the commissioners are ever going to do. A lot of things that would be nice, but
It is nice, but then also you can lose your Christmas lights.
there's that too.
Can we back up to page 5, income and poverty? I'm going to recommend that we completely drop table 8.2 because the information in that is identical to the information given in 8.4. The numbers are identical to the numbers given under 2021's section for each Poolsville, Montgomery County, and Maryland. It's an unnecessary graph that, plus the figure 8.4 is much more interesting and covers 21 years as opposed to this one just covering a single year.
So did you say figure 8.2?
Table
table.
8.2.
Or table 8.2, okay.
I had another question. Actually, this is a question, not a recommendation. Can you tell me, because I don't understand, the difference between a household and families? We find that in figure 8.3, where you talk about income ranges. And also, if you're going to use this income ranges figure, why are we not adding in the per capita? Or I guess you wouldn't have the per capita in that one, but I don't understand. What is the difference between a household and a family? Because it seems like households are less, but you would think that more family units could possibly be in a single household. So
Right.
I don't understand the definition.
Yeah, there are a few categories where we can get family data from the ACS tables, and so when we had that, we typically try to include it because of the kind of emphasis on it, but most of it, as you know, is kind of at household level, so.
Right, so I guess my question is either a definition of what is a family versus what is a household, and what does that
Okay.
mean, either needs to be included, or just drop one, because they seem to be a little bit redundant. There's not a
Right.
significant difference on any of those levels, except for the 100,000 to 150,000, but again, I guess, and the 75 to 100, but I don't understand what the difference is between those two categories. So, without a definition,
Okay.
it's meaningless.
Okay, we can look at that and see if we can clarify, and if we can, we'll keep it in, if not, we'll take it out.
Okay.
And again, part of it too is there's a small data set here, so sometimes differences do pop up given that, but we can clarify.
Also, can you speak to the empty tables? We have multiple empty tables.
Yeah, so.
8.8, 8.9, and 8.11.
So these are a little bit of placeholders for what we would typically have in larger jurisdictions, and I don't know if we have this information available
Yeah.
for Poolsville.
So this is stuff, we talked about this a little bit, but like, for example, the major employers, Michael had asked if we had this kind of data. The town doesn't have it. The best we could come up with is like using like the Chamber of Commerce list of members or something like that. So it's not necessarily something that we have, so I'm not sure we need to have it. The other ones are also data that we don't keep in a easily pullable, format necessarily. We could get it, but it's. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, we do the number of yeah.
So these data typically come from local sources, so if they are available, we can include them. If not, we can drop the tables. But that would typically, we're in a plan where we would include it, so that's why I
Right.
put it in
Our
there.
major employers are probably what? The town of Poolsville, Montgomery Public Schools, and the U.S. government?
Yeah.
But like, what do those numbers look like and how do they shake out? Probably would be difficult to get.
Right.
Right,
It's
right.
So-
and it's so that's
I don't think this is actually necessary. I would recommend taking this out without having that
Right.
specific information.
Yeah, so again, we just put it in there. If it's available, we can include it. And again, larger jurisdictions are more likely to have some of this data and have it be a more diverse data set as well.
Right, and since we're not a growing community and we're not, we have
Right.
some residential projects that are coming online. I'm not sure that,
Yeah, we don't necessarily, and again,
the
it wasn't.
residential building permits is particularly necessary when we're moving into a transition phase.
Right.
And out of building.
Right, and I don't think this data was included in the last plan, but again, just
Right.
put it in there in case, A, you wanted it, and B, you have it, and then it shows something.
Page 11, and scroll down to.
Yeah. So that's what it would. But for employment data, if we do have something, or if you have some other development data that we have, we could format it based on what you have available.
So that part would stay.
Yeah, so, some of it comes from the ACS, but
Yeah.
there, other stuff that usually comes from local sources. So again, we just put it in as a placeholder if it's available. Or how it's available, we can again customize the table depending on how the data is collected.
Can I ask, I think you asked something about table 8.4, but as I'm looking at it, all of the Poolsville stuff, for families is just like a line for Poolsville. Do we have that data? Will that go in, or is that not available?
I think we have it in a table form that we just pulled from the census and the ACS. So I can look at that. This is just a summary table that we developed from the data itself.
Because if that part doesn't exist, I don't know that we need the family section at all, because it doesn't show how it relates to us. I mean, maybe the people section we could keep, because there's at least some data for Poolsville, but if there's no data for us, I don't know that that pertains to us really.
Right. Yeah, I was gonna double check that again to see if we had, in some cases, we pulled some of this data earlier and sometimes it gets updated. And so, again, with the tables, we've talked about the tables, and the extent that we can get updated from like, let's say 6 to 8 months ago where we may have pulled it initially. Just to make sure we can get, especially for ACS, because that does get periodically updated or even made more available, additional data sets.
To follow up on that, figure 8.5 on the next page, where it's household income by race and ethnicity, that particular chart needs, or figure needs to be reworked, and just whatever we decide, if we're going to go with families or household incomes, just stick with that. It could very easily be reworked with just the one, unless we're going, again, to define what the difference is.
Okay.
I wish, and I'm sure that there's no way to really get this, but the job inflow and outflow chart, table 8.5, is both pre-pandemic data points. I don't know where that, oh, it came from the Census Bureau. So we don't have any data post-pandemic. Okay, just because that would have been such interesting data right there.
On 13, page 13, the last sentence before the 2012 Economic Developmental Study. It says the need to continue to implement the town's streetscape plan will continue to bolster these efforts. I don't think it's the need that will continue to bolster the efforts. I think it's the implementation that will bolster those efforts. So implementing the town's streetscape plan will continue to bolster these efforts. It's not the need. Does it make sense? What? Page 13. Yep,
Oh, the last sentence before
the last sentence of that
Yeah.
Okay,
like spaced.
I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Or if you want to use the same language as before and continuing to implement, but then you also have the word continue later, so you will want to, probably want,
You could just say implementing the town's streetscape plan will.
Will
Yeah.
bolster
Yeah.
his efforts.
you could also say, because before we say continue to implement the plan, and we've already established that we are already implementing it. So
Yeah.
continuing to implement the town's streetscape plan will bolster these efforts.
Okay. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
Mhm.
There's a couple of different ways of saying it, but I understand your point.
And White's Ferry is at the end. Seems more important than
We can,
being at the
We could
end.
definitely move it forward. I
Yeah.
mean, I kind of, like I was saying at the beginning, pulled the data,
Mhm.
and then we looked at some issue areas based on the previous report, so we could move it up.
Yeah, if you can find a good spot to put it, it's not at the end,
Yep.
it's almost like I'd rather see a table at the end.
Right.
I feel like that section would go really nicely after like the worker travel time part. And just talking about how like the worker travel time for Poolsville residents may have been greatly impacted by the closure. Because that data's a little bit older, so that would be a nice segue. It's kind of in the middle, but I don't know if that's far enough up, but it feels like it fits there to me.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of data at the beginning of the chapter, but that could segue into some of the more substantive issues. And
Yeah.
since that's a major one, it sounds like.
I don't know that I'm necessarily done with this chapter yet, but that's my feedback for tonight at least. Anybody else? Good for tonight?
Yes, this is the first time we've really seen that one.
So we'll coordinate with Niles. If you submit any comments with him, we can work with him to finalize that text. Or at least amend it so that when we bring it back, it represents whatever you note tonight as well as whatever gets sent in.
And I won't hang on that, I'll work on it.
okay, that's fine, yeah.
I guess we're left with the sustainability. And then we'll finish up with the introduction and the vision and guiding principles.
That was how I envisioned it, but however you guys want to go.
So really quickly, the first thing I'm thinking is we've been talking about how that purpose comes first. So maybe moving that paragraph 1 down again below the purpose.
Okay.
And again, it's a little bit more subjective, and I feel like we've always put those towards the end of the overviews, the first sentence, the first paragraph.
Mhm.
So maybe that could be the third paragraph.
So you're suggesting making the second paragraph 1, the third paragraph 2, and the first paragraph 3.
I think so. Do we want to add dual stream into the objective number 2 in front of recycling? Just-
already accomplished that?
Yeah, we support it by having dual stream recycling. I just feel like that's been a word that people have always wanted to use whenever we talk about recycling.
I feel like recycling's in there, so just maybe even adding dual stream right
Yeah.
before it.
Sorry, that's something to say. I don't know what I said.
No, I think that's what you were going with, but it's there.
I just want to say how amazed I am with this chapter. Like literally, it was a one-page bullet
Yeah.
points. That's generous. I am so amazed. Like, kudos to you all.
So Wade,
This is really lovely.
Wade did a lot of work on this one, so, I mean, just pulling it from stuff we'd done previously and also stuff we talked about, so that,
Right, and I like how you expanded the end. All of the information that you added to the end was very, very good and on point. I only really had one comment, and that was on page 2, under Sustainable Poolsville Committee. I think it's a pretty new committee. It might even be since the last comprehensive plan. I would add in there, on that first sentence, is the Sustainable Poolsville Committee established in or whenever it was appointed, to just really show that this is something new that we are working on and we are expanding on. But really, just so good. I need to read this for just, grammar and stuff. But overall, really, really impressed with how this came out.
I just have a question about that, because I feel like we went back and forth a little bit, if that should even be, that part should even really be in it, about sustainable Poolsville, because I remember having a conversation like, do we want to list, a separate volunteer board
Was that?
with their own objectives? I don't know.
I thought that was in the objectives and the goals, though. It was like,
yeah.
It was, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
that's what
it wasn't. I think it was like, have the Sustainable Poolsville Committee support doing.
Yeah,
It was in the objectives and goals.
yeah, it's more explaining it. I think it says like, yeah, I think it was in there, yeah. I'll check that, but,
And I think we do mention the Fair Access Committee and somewhere else too on
Yes.
some other chapters. Those are kind of unique boards and committees.
yeah.
Can I just ask, the objectives then under that portion, aren't most of them reflected in the goals and objectives section, even if they're not stated? Like I see goal 5, look for opportunities to add zero emission vehicles to the town fleet. And then I see somewhere in there was replacing town-owned vehicles.
Yes.
Do we, having separate objectives is a little confusing to me. Maybe it's just me.
So yeah, this was the stuff that they had presented to us. And so I guess the question is if we want to, yeah,
But I don't think it's I don't think that's, I mean, maybe just add Sustainable Poolsville's Committee objectives for the comprehensive plan, right, or.
Shouldn't we just have objectives for the comprehensive? plan
Right, like,
in
can't-
general, not
can't they
like
just-
Specific people's separate objectives?
I agree with
Good, yeah.
Amanda. I think the objectives for the 23 comprehensive plan should actually be moved into goals and objectives.
Merge them.
If they're
Where
not there,
possible.
like I said, like some of them do appear to be there. They're not the same wording, but we did address them. Like I don't, That would probably make me feel better about the committee part being there
Yeah, I see
completely,
what you
because
mean.
that's,
You stumble on that when you read into it too. Yeah, you just merge them, not literally, but logically merge them together. Some may drop from either section, but get it down to one section would make a lot more sense.
I didn't do, the reason I was a little, thought it would be okay, like, I think we, and I want to go back and look, but somewhere we credit Fair Access with doing work in a certain direction. And other than their, like, they've given us input for this plan, I'm okay with saying they have given us input in the plan. Like, I want the town residents and anybody that reads the master plan to know that they've helped us develop goals and objectives for the comprehensive plan. We don't have to say, spell it out like this, but certainly something that, you know.
could there just,
We do in the overview, we mentioned how we've gotten feedback from residents and stuff, and different civic groups and organizations. I think it would be consistent to just mention here that they helped.
I like the idea of that.
Put it into sentence 3 under Sabre Poolsville Summary. The committee promotes blah, blah, and they also provide.
Yep, perfect.
input.
Yep, thank you.
That's third sentence somewhere.
Yep.
Yeah, and provided input into the goals and objectives for this section.
I agree, it needs to be explicitly stated.
Yeah.
Curious way, the Sustainable Poolsville Committee seen this chapter?
No. As long as I've been working through documents with committees, one committee at a time.
Yep. Just curious what their reaction is gonna be. I'm sure they'll be
They
impressed.
should be ecstatic.
Yeah, they really should, yep.
But we were going to, they're going to meet next week, so I think one discussion point we had was having them look at it at their meeting in advance, so after we can update it and then give it to them.
Any other feedback tonight on the sustainability chapter? Right.
Can I propose before reading the intro that we talk about the vision and guiding principles first so that way it flows and we're thinking of it that way?
Fine with me.
Can I just say, Chuck, these are awesome. I really enjoy this, and this was really, I think, everything we've been talking about, and just seeing it spelled out in really simple terms like this and straightforward. I think you really captured all the things that we've been talking about really well.
Thanks. I kept going, but I almost added to, I kept deleting them, adding them, and I found this, less is more.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
And one thing we could do is just highlight that with the format as well, like making it, I don't know what your thought was on that, but,
Formatting is not my forte.
okay. But maybe making almost like a graphic, because it may be something that you want to pull out and just have available out there, like here's our guiding principles, you know?
Yeah.
You know what could be cool is if it was a graphic, and then at the beginning of chapters, pertinent guiding principles are highlighted or something at the beginning of each chapter. Like, so that way it's a consistent reiteration of those
Right.
5 guiding principles.
Right. I mean, we can think about that and maybe color code them in some way. I mean, that's something that we've done sometimes, especially if there's like, we talked a little bit about themes. We haven't necessarily followed up with that, but in terms of like a thematic plan, sometimes that's a way to highlight how those things are connected, because you're going to get lost in the text, right? Because it's just the same language.
Chuck, would, I mean, when we talk about themes, the guiding principles are the themes that we
They're
talk
kind
about.
of the themes,
right?
yeah.
I mean,
So,
calling guiding principles worked a little bit better. They're the same concept.
Yeah. Like kind of, it unifies the plan also, like around these principles and themes.
Right.
So anyway, as we do the final formatting, we'll think about that, and maybe there's some creative ways to represent that in the document.
Oh, I had a couple of thoughts on the guiding principles. I think they're fantastic. You did an excellent job on this. I wondered, though, if the community vision statement shouldn't be first above the, just as like a lead-in, not necessarily as like a number two, but like number, like just as it is at the very top, and then underneath where you begin with
Just basically swap one.
just swap 1 and 2, but not even call this number 2. Just
Oh,
straight up,
Just boom.
just that is our mission statement, and these are how we use the guiding principles. That's just a formatting thing. I wasn't sure on the housing that reflects a full range of choices, just because it says Poolsville will continue to offer a balanced housing choices, and I'm not sure that that statement is true right now. I don't think we offer.
No, but
But I was thinking that maybe we should, yeah,
Aspires
strive
to?
to,
I was thinking strive.
strive to,
Yes. Okay.
How about,
create,
I like Chuck said it earlier, just do it. We will offer. Poolsville will offer a balance.
yeah, we'll commit to offering.
or strive, I mean.
Yeah, I
use
just-
that- I use that
'cause we're
phrase somewhere
just-
else in here.
We're not there. There's no,
No, it's,
retirement housing. There is, it's just, we're missing some stuff.
I think the definitive "we will offer" is tricky because there's still land use and allowable uses on things. We would have to be really consistent with how we want to do redevelopment code if we want that.
strive to offer, instead of what Poolsville will strive to offer.
Strive or aspire to?
I don't like aspire.
You like strive better?
is- If you look at the
More
definition of
active.
strive, it's more forceful
Okay,
and concrete,
okay.
and less
Work to-
aspirational.
We will work to offer.
Yeah. I think it's definitely something that we are committed to seeing happen, and we want it to happen, but I think that it is not there. I don't think the word continue is appropriate in that context.
I wonder if is committed to maybe even stronger, because I heard you say that, and I was like, you know what, that sounds like it's something we really want, more than strive, like, is committed to offering a balance.
Yeah.
Thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just think it needs to be reworded. And along with the economic development that leverages Poolsville.
I struggled with that one.
Yeah, it's a really long sentence there to start.
That, by the way, that is lifted verbatim out of the economic development.
I'm happy to see if I can't work
Sure,
it. It
please,
just,
'cause I
it
struggled with
felt
that one.
really disjointed when I read through it. I was like, this is all wonderful, but it just felt like it needed. And then just the,
So, but if, what we reword here, you might want to consider, because literally this is a copy and paste out of the first
Well, we could,
front matter, so that let's change it in both places.
yeah.
we could
Okay.
break that up into more sentences if you
Yeah,
want.
it just needs to be a little bit, just reworked. The ideas are so great, but, just the way it's put out there. And then just a couple of other little minor, like, commas and stuff.
Yeah, I just,
Sorry.
no.
I was gonna. Wade, the very last one, the safe, reliable, and cost-effective water, is that reasonable and accurate for, because that was kind of your bailiwick, and I cobbled something together. This is one that I went like, it was bigger and shrunk. I tried to get everything down to like 2 sentences max. I wasn't sure what else to do with this one. I know it's important to us, but I couldn't think of anything else quite as grand, aspirational as it had in the other sections. It's a little more mechanical, but it's critical. Also trying not to use exact.
Can can I say here that I like that you talk about highly reliable drinking water, because I think that that is one thing that we hear a lot, right, from town residents, is their fear of the drinking water, right, and not being reliable. So I think that even having that little piece in there, right, says that it's a priority.
And just, this is minor, but I think it's worth mentioning, the built environment is built environment in the paragraph, but not built environment in the,
Yeah, and I should probably take away that was probably the absolute last thing I did.
I don't mind that, I'll tell you why I don't mind those quotes, is because you rarely ever see "our built" put together, those two words. So when I first read it, I was like, what do you mean, our built? What do you mean, what does that mean? And then I had to reread it again. You put the quotes on it, and it's our.
Yeah. And it's a relatively recent terminology, relative being on
I
the
like it.
last 7 years, but it's the terminology used across government, architecture, engineering. Everyone's starting to use that one nowadays. But without knowing it, I stumbled every time I read it,
Right.
until I finally got it ingrained in here. But for those people that have been using the terminology for years, I guess it
Yeah.
flowed a little more. That's why I was kind of going back and forth with wording that.
So I would support the quotations in the header also.
Thanks for doing that.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's not all original, far.
I have
Put it together, though.
question, though, related to this, just so that we have it. How do we want this to fit in with the plan as a whole?
Chapter 2.
You want it to be its own chapter 2, okay. Yeah, you did it in the, yes, now I remember, sorry.
Small, light, and almost one page, but not quite. It was nothing.
Yeah, Chuck, I think on the wastewater one, it might just say wastewater conveyance and treatment, because we don't store it. But
Oh, okay, I was thinking about the ponds, but you're right. It's actually not a good thing if we're using those, so.
I'd like to say that.
Yeah, never mind, you're right.
minor.
Any other feedback on the vision and guiding principles tonight? Other than the wholehearted appreciation from everybody on this meeting, I'm sure. Chuck, thank you. All right, to the new introduction. No reason to look at the old one, because I think the new one's better. Everybody agree?
I haven't got that.
So Wade, the one thing I did between what you sent out earlier in the week and this is I removed the section, the page and a half that had all the stuff about from the survey, including the graphics that we all questioned last time, because that's going to be in an appendix anyway.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And I have one recommendation I want to see about the, so, 1, 2, 3, section 4, policy and legal, and section 5, planning and growth context, which I'm not really wild enough to type out. I'd like to swap those in order. Because frankly, the 1, 2, almost 3 pages of policy and legalese kind of makes you glaze over. And by the time you get past that, you kind of don't even notice what we're doing in
I was actually considering if we could move forward to 8.
4 to 8.
And just have it like the guy at the end of the commercial just babbles on.
Yeah, something like that.
I seriously, yeah, I think that's a good place for it.
Okay.
And the only other, I have one little grammatical thing. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bullet on the purpose of the plan, number 2, says establishes of a framework.
Whoops.
I think it just establishes a framework. And then on the comprehensive plan, I made some notes on the document. After the picture, it says on May 14th,
Which page?
Page, are
Oh.
numbered, section 7.
It's the only picture, sorry.
The only
That's the-
picture in the chapter. We don't really get into phrases like if something was well attended, and we use that right there. I don't know if we want to reword that. That seems very kind of subjective to me, and this is a little bit more of just what happened. I don't think it's critical.
Stakeholder meeting was held.
Yeah, I mean, the visioning Van Wheeling Commons, we did it and received, we could maybe say we received feedback from numerous residents and, something like that, but I think to state that it was very well attended doesn't fit with the nature of the document.
I feel like we have a lot of data from that event, correct?
Well, we could
Yes.
possibly add some data, like the number of people and the
Yep.
kind of number of responses and things like that.
Right.
I think even saying like, was attended by blank people and resulted in blank responses would be awesome.
Right. Yeah, we can add that data, I think. Because that makes it less subjective and more just, this is how many people. And it's good to document that, actually.
And then actually, I skipped over one other note, right just above that, the last, number 14 in the section 6, right before the comprehensive planning process, supporting materials.
Yeah,
That's
we'll
just
have to fill
placeholder.
that in.
I think that was a placeholder until
Okay.
we have the final layout of the whole document.
Yep.
Yeah, that would list the appendices.
Yep.
And if there's a lot of appendices, it might not be worth listing them all there.
Right, we could just
Yeah.
say appendices C,
Yeah.
section X or whatever.
Yeah.
Any other feedback on the introduction?
I would like to see us just right off the top rework the very first sentence. It sounds like from the get-go that this is an update to the 2011 plan, comprehensive plan, but this is not an update. And it's fundamentally, I think philosophically, it's a different document.
Right.
2011 plan was a growth document, and this is a transition document. And so I would like to see it say that the 2023 comprehensive plan, pays homage to the past, but that whole first sentence should not say that this is an update to an old document, because that's not what this is.
It's a new document.
It is a new document.
It's built on, to some degree, on the prior planning.
So, yes, I mean, definitely, we are updating some of the stuff from the 2011 comp plan, and some of that stuff has been completed, and all of these things are true, but this is not an update to that
So
document.
it's a completely different format. And
Yeah.
we have different guiding principles and, yep, no, I agree.
I like that. That's a really good point, Lexi. I feel like even if you just take off that first
Part before the comment and just change it to the 2023 comprehensive plan reflects the town's past, current, and future efforts.
Right.
I think that encapsulates it without necessarily saying that one piece.
Yeah,
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what I did too. I was like,
That reminded me of something else. I'm going to jump in and speak real quick.
Go ahead.
It's very easy. The Poolsville comprehensive plan, and then parentheses the plan, but then we say comprehensive plan again a few times, so
Right.
let's just
Yeah,
call it
I-
the plan anywhere it's called.
I know, I made some edits there, and they just, I must not have saved them. I had the same comment, and I actually made some edits in here, and I thought I saved it, but I might not have saved it.
So it's just the find and replace type of thing, if whatever is comprehensive plan together, just change it to the plan, but then be careful, because there's sometimes the comprehensive plan, and it would be the plan.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of aspirational, to use that word, thinking that we'll do that in the plan, and then we'll just, because that would be the first reference at the beginning of it,
Mhm.
but yeah, if we're not using it, it's pointless to have it that way. And I don't think it actually is referenced that many times.
I don't think it is at all.
No. I mean, we
Yeah.
talk about the 2011 plan in different places, but,
It's mostly just referenced in this chapter.
right.
Yeah, I would like to see that go away, and then even here, not even calling it the Poolsville comprehensive plan, just this comprehensive
Right.
plan, or,
Right, it doesn't, it's a little redundant, since you're in this plan anyway. Right.
Since we're on this first page, just a couple minor editing notes. Under 3, government structure, last sentence, first paragraph, town charter should probably be capitalized, and missing a comma after duties, all in that last sentence. And then under the second paragraph there, section 3, maybe take out the 5 elected commissioners on the second line, since the very first line says consisting of 5 unpaid elected commissioners, and then it literally says the 5 elected commissioners. It's a little redundant.
Just have to be the commissioners.
The commissioners, yes. So just a little bit of housekeeping right there. I had a question under section 5, if it's okay to move that far ahead. Planning and growth, the second bullet point, and then the first bullet point under the second bullet point. Infill development within the business district, including the Dollar General store, and it lists these properties. I just wondered, like, why wasn't other places listed that are more recent, like Locals or the redevelopment?
Because locals didn't exist when I wrote this.
Oh, I was like, okay,
And
but
locals,
like,
well, locals wasn't infill, but these were just examples, and I wanted Wade to, or the company to figure out how to word them in here.
is-
That one's redevelopment, actually.
that is redevelopment, yeah. So
These
it
were
would be redevelopment of existing properties within or near the town center would be Locals.
That's a good example, that
Yeah.
one, such as.
I just didn't, I wasn't sure why there were maybe newer examples that weren't used. And then also, under that same part, the last bullet point, instead of ensuring Poolsville schools have opportunities and resources at least equal to other schools, I think at least equal to should be changed to equitable.
Yeah, I thought we did that. I apologize for
Yeah,
that.
that's okay. I was like, I think we've
That
come
was
across that before.
on my list.
I think that's all I have.
So really quickly, in section 6, the organization of the plan, looking at number 12, it looks like most of the other definitions of the chapters talk about Poolsville in Poolsville specifically, like number 11, water resources describes how Poolsville will manage, but sustainability, 12, says addresses what has been accomplished and how communities can reduce the vulnerability. Can we change that to how Poolsville will reduce the vulnerability?
Yep.
I don't think I have anything else. I was looking through those chapters to see if there was any change in the order that would make sense, if there was something we would want further up or back, but it doesn't feel, it feels like it flows nicely. I was looking at your guiding principles, though, to make sure that the order reflected kind of the order of the guiding principles a little bit as well.
It seems to though.
Any other feedback on the introduction? The new introduction? Any other subject to discuss for the comp plan? It's your last chance to speak, Michael.
I didn't have anything more. We'll coordinate with
Yeah.
Wade and Niles to prepare the chapters based on these and bring more back next time.
Martin, I just want to give you a chance. I know you're battling some stuff, but is there anything else you want to talk about, Martin? Anything else you have to say?
No, not tonight, thank you.
Yep.
I make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Have a great night, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you guys.